Jnanam Satyam Jnanam Jyoti Aravinda Satyam Jnanam Satyam Jnanam Jyotir Aravinda Satyam Jnanam Satyam Jnanam Jyotir Aravinda Jyotir Aravinda Jyotir Aravinda. So we all know that we've evolved from an animal past, right? That's Darwin's theory of evolution, from mineral to plant to animal to human. So because we've evolved out of the animal, there are parts of us which are still animal, and animal growing towards God is the condition of man. And each human being is at a different point in his evolutionary curve. So the closer we are to our animal past, the less evolved we are towards our divine future, right? So all mobiles on silent, please. Yeah. Okay. So depending on where we are on our evolutionary curve, we are more animal, less divine, or less animal, more divine. Now, if we are more animal at that point in our evolutionary curve, what is the nature of an animal? It's beautiful, nothing wrong with it, but it lives by instincts. The moment it's threatened, it attacks, right? So an animal will hurt another animal only when it's under threat, the flight or fight response, right? Now, in human beings, this animal instinct is even worse because we have a mind that can imagine threat. An animal senses danger and attacks. So usually it's not attacking pointlessly, but a human mind can create enemies, create danger, and go on attacking. So the more we are linked to our animal past and less we've grown into our the divine essence in us, the more we'll have an instinct which wants to hurt, right? And usually we want to hurt because we feel threatened. So even anger is really a form of fear, right? You have to feel inadequate and helpless first before you shout and get angry. So all the ways in which we hurt others is somewhere coming from our flight or fight animal response, our instinct to protect ourselves, which is sometimes very distorted. But think about it, whenever you've hurt someone, somewhere or the other, it's your maybe distorted way of defending yourself, of protecting yourself. Even jealousy, hurting people out of feeling jealous of them, is a form of protecting yourself. It doesn't really protect you, but you have the illusion that you're protecting yourself. You see the person you're jealous of happy, and that happiness threatens you. So you have the illusion that in lashing out at that person, you're taking away the person's happiness. So it's an artificial kind of solace, right? So every kind of hurt we inflict on another is somewhere rooted in our animal instinct to defend ourselves. And the point is, the more we grow into the Godhead within us, the more we realize that we don't really need to defend ourselves, that the whole universe is really friendly, that everything here is designed for our protection and growth. But the more anchored we are in our animal past, we are not open to this wisdom. We live by impulses, instincts, the vital which is not resolved, and that's what makes us really hurt people, whether it's with our thoughts, whether it's with our words. Every thought of ill will is also somewhere hurting somebody. We've done this many times, right? That our thoughts are not just here. Our thoughts actually have an energy which goes to the person and changes something in the person. So if you have a very negative thought about somebody, it will reach that person. Not that that person can read your thought, but somewhere that person senses it and changes towards you. So whether we hurt people with our thought or our words, basically any instinct to hurt another comes from ignorance. Yeah? So now let's look at Mother and Sri Aurobindo's words. Our topic is on hurting others and being hurt. So this is a passage from Savitri that describes the human state. He's describing the human being. Assailed is attacked. Assailed on earth and unassured of heaven. Isn't that how we feel? We feel attacked by circumstances on earth, and sometimes we are not sure, is Mother really there? Is she going to protect us? We are, in our surface at least, unassured of heaven. So we feel attacked on earth and unassured of heaven. Assailed on earth and unassured of heaven. Descended here, unhappy and sublime. That's human being. He's unhappy, but yet he's divine. He's sublime. A link between the demigod and the beast. That's what a human being is. A link between the demigod and the beast. He knows not his own greatness nor his aim. He has forgotten why he has come and whence. His spirit and his members are at war. His spirit and his members are the vital, mental, physical. Usually what the psychic being wants and what the mental, vital, physical want are completely different. His heights break off too low to reach the skies. Man is reaching out, but the highest he can reach doesn't touch the sky of salvation. His mass is buried in the animal mire. A strange antimony. Antimony is a bundle of opposites, is his nature's rule. A riddle of opposites is made his field. Freedom he asks, but needs to live in bonds. We want to feel free, but it's as if we are attached to our imprisonments, our attachments, our bonds. Freedom he asks, but needs to live in bonds. He has need of darkness to perceive some light, and need of grief to feel a little bliss. He has need of death to find a greater life. All sides he sees and turns to every call. He has no certain light by which to walk. So his mind's light is not certain. He'll say, the mind will say, go here, then go there. So he has no certain light by which to walk. His life is a blind man's buff, a hide and seek. He seeks himself, and from himself he runs. Himself meaning his higher self. He wants to find himself, but very often something in us runs away from the very light that we are seeking. He seeks himself, and from himself he runs. Meeting himself, he thinks it other than he. Always he builds but finds no constant ground. Always he journeys but nowhere arrives. He would guide the world, himself he cannot guide. He would save his soul, his life he cannot save. The light his soul had brought, his mind has lost. All he has learned is soon again in doubt. A sun to him seems the shadow of his thoughts. He believes his thoughts can guide him like the sun guides everything. So the shadow of his thoughts, which is actually a darkness, seems to him a sun. Then all is shadow again and nothing is true. Unknowing what he does or whither he tends, he fabricates signs of the real in ignorance. So part 1 on hurting others. We have established that we hurt others in proportion to how much we haven't grown out of our animal past, right? And in proportion to how much we've grown into our divine counterpart, we'll have nothing in us which wants to hurt another. The closer we are to our light, the less we are capable of hurting another. But the further away we are from that light, the more vulnerable we feel. The closer we come to our light, the more the sense of our protection, our strength, everything is brighter, and we don't need the self-defense of hurting others in order to feel safe. So now Mother talks about the power of love, which is coming closer to our light. So Mother says, the divine love of which I speak is a love that manifests here upon this physical earth in matter. But it must be pure of its human distortions if it is to incarnate. The vital is our emotional being, is an indispensable agent in this as in all manifestation. So for the divine love to incarnate, our vital being, our emotional being mustn't be dried up. It's very important that the vital is converted rather than dried up. But as has all happened always, the adverse powers have put their hold on this most precious thing, the vital. The adverse powers have sort of held the vital in their hold, and they act through our vital to turn us away from light and love. It is the energy of the vital that enters into dull and insensitive matter and makes it responsive and alive. But the adverse forces have distorted it. They have turned it into a field of violence and selfishness and desire and every kind of ugliness, and prevented it from taking part in the divine work. The one thing to be done is to change it, not to suppress its movement or destroy it, for without it no intensity is possible anywhere. The vital is in its very nature that in us which can give itself away. Just because it is that which has always the impulse and the strength to take, it is also that which is capable of giving itself to the utmost. Because it knows how to possess, it also knows how to abandon itself without reserve. So Mother is saying that if our emotional being or the vital, when it's under the hands of adverse forces, if it's selfish, egoistic, it always wants to take. When it is transformed, it's the vital that makes the movement of self-giving very possible. So that which can take is that which can give, and the proportion to which it takes when it's distorted is the proportion to which it will give itself when the distortion is removed. The true vital movement is the most beautiful and magnificent of movements. but it has been twisted and turned into the most ugly, the most distorted, the most repulsive. Wherever into a human story of love there has entered even an atom of pure love, and it has been allowed to manifest without too much distortion, we find a true and beautiful thing. And if the movement does not last, it is because it is not conscious of its own aim and seeking. It has not the knowledge that it is not the union of one being with another that it is seeking after, but the union of all beings with the divine. So the more we move towards this converted vital which gives rather than wants to take, the less we are capable of hurting others. A vital which keeps wanting to take will get violated when it doesn't get what it wants, right? And then when it gets violated, it feels threatened. When it feels threatened, it lashes out by hurting. But the more converted our vital is, the less capable we are of hurting another. Now, Mother's words, getting rid of repulsion. Anything that is repulsive, examine it very carefully. It threatens our well-being, right? We don't like to be around people who we feel repelled by, because we feel threatened. We don't like being around, if I'm scared of a cockroach, I find it repulsive because I'm threatened by it. Whatever I find repulsive, somewhere I am threatened by it, right? Even people who we feel repelled by, we feel threatened that they'll take away our happiness. So anything we feel repelled by is something that first threatens us. So, Mother's words, getting rid of repulsion. The world is full of things that are not pleasing or beautiful, but that is no reason why one should live in a constant feeling of repulsion for these things. All feelings of shrinking and disgust and fear that disturb and weaken the human mind can be overcome. A yogi has to overcome these reactions, for almost the very first step in yoga demands that you must keep a perfect equanimity in the presence of all beings and things and happenings. Always you must remain calm, untouched and unmoved. The strength of the yogi lies there. An entire calmness and quietness will disarm even dangerous and ferocious animals when they confront you. Repulsion is a movement of ignorance. It is an instinctive gesture of self-defense. But what best protects you against any danger is not an unreasoning recoil, but knowledge. Knowledge of the nature of the danger and a conscious application of the means that will remove or nullify it. So Mother's saying repulsion is always an instinct of ignorance. You feel repelled by something only when you don't know what it is in its essence. If you recognize that the essence of everything without exception is Mother, is God, you can't get repelled by anything. I'll remind you of that story of Ramakrishna. All of us are mostly very repelled by snakes, right? So once Ramakrishna Paramahansa was in meditation and a snake came and slithered across him, and he was of course in samadhi with the Mother and the cosmic Mother, and he just said, "Oh Mother, you've come to me in this form, welcome, welcome." No repulsion towards the snake, because he saw the snake was, he had the inner vision to see that that snake was also the divine. And Mother says it, no, that if the highest in you approaches the vilest creature, then the highest in that creature is obliged to come forward. The snake will never bite you if you're really seeing it as Mother. This applies to human beings also. the very human beings we are repelled by because we feel being around them will harm us, if we really connect with Mother inside us and approach that repulsive human being from seeing just with a thought that this also is Mother, then we'll see how everything changes, because you've brought in another very effective factor into the equation of the moment, right? So we hurt others when we feel repelled by them often, but if we really approach the person we are repelled by with the vision that this too is Mother, we won't have the instinct to harm that person in self-defense. Yeah? Now, no better example of this than Sri Aurobindo's experience in Alipore jail. Sri Aurobindo was surrounded by convicts and murderers and dacoits. He was surrounded by the British who hated him and treated him in the worst possible way. He was given food to eat which was unpalatable, so unpalatable that sometimes he would starve and he had to go to the hospital. The food would have insects and hair and dirt and everything. So if we are talking about recoil and repulsion, in my mind, none of us must have faced circumstances that could evoke as much recoil and aversion as it could have evoked for Sri Aurobindo in the Alipore jail. But let's hear in his own words, his own experience. When I was arrested and hurried to the Lal Bazar Hazrat, I was shaken in faith for a while, for I could not look into the heart of his intention. Therefore I faltered for a moment and cried out in my heart to him, "What is this that has happened to me? I believed that I had a mission to work for the people of my country, and until that work was done, I should have thy protection. Why then am I here and on such a charge?" A day passed, and a second day, and a third. Then a voice came to me from within, "Wait and see." Then I grew calm and waited. I was taken from Lal Bazar to Alipore and was placed for 1 month in a solitary cell apart from men. There I waited day and night for the voice of God within me, to know what He had to say to me, to learn what I had to do. In this seclusion, the earliest realization, the first lesson came to me. I remembered then that a month or more before my arrest, a call had come to me to put aside all activity, to go into seclusion and to look into myself so that I might enter into closer communion with Him. I was weak and could not accept the call. My work was very dear to me, and in the pride of my heart, I thought that unless I was there, it would suffer or even fail and cease. Therefore, I would not leave it. It seemed to me that He spoke to me again and said, "The bonds you had not the strength to break, I have broken for you, because it is not my will, nor was it ever my intention that that should continue. Your work as a freedom fighter should continue like that. I have another thing for you to do, and it is for that I have brought you here, to teach you what you could not learn for yourself and to train you for my work." Then He placed the Gita in my hands. His strength entered into me, and I was able to do the sadhana of the Gita. I was not only to understand intellectually, but to realize what Sri Krishna demanded of Arjun and what he demands of those who aspire to do his work, to be free from repulsion and desire, to do work from him without the demand for fruit, to renounce self-will and become a passive and faithful instrument in His hands, to have an equal heart for high and low, friend and opponent, success and failure, yet not to do His work negligently. He turned the hearts of my jailers to me, and they spoke to the Englishmen in charge of the jail. Imagine, these were jailers, and they spoke to the Englishmen in charge. He, that is Sri Aurobindo, is suffering in his confinement. Let him at least walk outside his cell for half an hour in the morning and the evening. So it was arranged, and it was while I was walking that his strength, that is God's strength, again entered into me. I look at the jail that secluded me from men, and it was no longer by its high walls that I was imprisoned. No, it was Vasudeva, Sri Krishna, who surrounded me. I looked under the branches of the tree in front of my cell, but it was not the tree. I knew it was Vasudeva. It was Sri Krishna whom I saw standing there, holding over me his shade. I looked at the bars of my cell, the very grating that did duty for a door, and again I saw Vasudeva. It was Narayana who was guarding and standing sentry over me. Or I lay on the coarse blankets that were given me for a couch and felt the arms of Sri Krishna around me, the arms of my friend and lover. This was the first use of the deeper vision he gave me. I looked at the prisoners in the jail, the thieves, the murderers, the swindlers, and as I looked at them, I saw Vasudeva. It was Narayana whom I found in these darkened souls and misused bodies. Amongst these thieves and dacoits, there were many who put me to shame by their sympathy, their kindness, the humanity triumphant over such adverse circumstances. One I saw among them especially, who seemed to me a saint, a peasant of my nation, who did not know how to read and write, an alleged dacoit sentenced to 10 years rigorous imprisonment, one of those whom we look down upon in our pharisaical pride of class as Chota Lok. Once more he spoke to me and said, "Behold the people among whom I have sent you to do a little of my work. This is the nature of the nation I am raising up, and the reason I raise them up." So it's so beautiful that he was in a place where there's greatest stimuli for repulsion, and all he found was love, because suddenly his inner vision opened up, and in all the things that would normally repel, he saw that one essence, the Godhead, which was there. And that's possible for all of us. Sri Aurobindo says that in his Integral Yoga, one of the principal things to remember is that everything is God. Everything is God. That Smaran should be a constant background consciousness. And the Gita says, no, yoya shraddha sa eva sa. Whatever your faith is will be your truth. If I'm constantly reminding myself of my faith that this too is God, this too is God, then somewhere it paves the way for my inner vision to open up and to actually see that all is God. In fact, later on, we have this beautiful aphorism of Sri Aurobindo. It's on the last page of the PDF, but I'll just read it out. An aphorism of Sri Aurobindo: I saw a child wallowing in the dirt, and the same child cleaned by his mother and resplendent. But each time I trembled before his utter purity. So a child wallowing in the dirt is what I'm repelled. Everything is a child of the mother, right? When I'm repelled by a person or by a cockroach, it's the child wallowing in the dirt. The dirt is something my mind is projecting. I saw a child wallowing in the dirt, and the same child cleaned by his mother, the Divine Mother. When she removes the dirt in our vision, the child is cleaned and resplendent. But each time I trembled before his utter purity. This could also mean that a repulsive person is a child of the mother wallowing in the dirt. And eventually, when the mother cleanses that same child, the same child changes and becomes resplendent. But Sri Aurobindo had a vision where he could see even the repulsive person as a child of the mother and the saint as a child of the mother. So he trembled before the utter purity of both. He had the vision to see the purity in the child that was dirty, and the vision to see the purity in the child that was clean. So beautiful. I saw a child wallowing in the dirt, and the same child cleaned by his mother and resplendent. But each time I trembled before his utter purity. When the case, to continue with Sri Aurobindo's time in the jail, when the case opened in the lower court and we were brought before the magistrate, I was followed by the same insight. He said to me, when you were cast into jail, did not your heart fail? And did you not cry out to me, where is thy protection? So this is God telling Sri Aurobindo. Now, look now at the magistrate. Look now at the prosecuting counsel. I looked, and it was not the magistrate whom I saw. It was Vasudeva. It was Narayana who was sitting there on the bench. I looked at the prosecuting counsel, and it was not the counsel for prosecution that I saw. It was Sri Krishna who sat there. It was my lover and friend who sat there and smiled. Now do you fear? Can you imagine the prosecuting counsel, the person who fights against him? Normally he'd be a person who evokes maximum fear in you, right? Because he's the one who's going to nail you down and prove you're guilty. But how beautiful if you look at him and you don't see him as a threat. You just see Sri Krishna in him. Now do you fear, he said, I am in all men, and I overrule their actions and words. This is such an assurance that God presence in each person overrules their actions and their words. We are always scared, no, that the person will harm me. But can't be, because the Godhead in that person will control how terrible that person is, just so terrible as is good for your growth, no more. So that's what it's being said here. I overrule their actions and their words. My protection is still with you, and you shall not fear. This case which is brought against you, leave it in my hands. It is not for you. It is not for the trial that I brought you here, but for something else. What was that else he was brought here for? Huh? The meeting with Sri Krishna. That to meet Sri Krishna and to open to him is why he was brought there. The case itself is only a means for my work and nothing more. Afterwards, when the trial opened in the Sessions Court, I began to write many instructions for my counsel as to what was false in the evidence against me, and on what points the witnesses might be cross-examined. Then something happened which I had not expected. The arrangements which had been made for my defense were suddenly changed, and another counsel stood there to defend me. So normally there would be a defense lawyer, right? So whoever was supposed to defend him was suddenly changed. He came unexpectedly, a friend of mine, but I did not know he was coming. You have all heard the name of the man who put away from him all other thoughts, abandoned all his practice, who sat up half the night, day after day, for months and broke his health to save me. Shri Jut Chitrandajan Das, C.R. Das, the lawyer, who came to help. When I saw him, I was satisfied, but I still thought it necessary to write instructions. Then all that was put away from me, and I had the message from within. This is the man who will save you from the snares put around your feet. Put aside these papers. It is not you who will instruct him. I will instruct him. From that time, I did not of myself speak a word to my counsel about the case or give a single instruction. And if ever I was asked a question, I always found that my answer did not help the case. I had left it to him and he took it entirely into his hand. With what results you know. I knew all along what he meant for me, for I heard it again and again. Always I listened to the voice within. I am guiding. Therefore fear not. Turn to your own work for which I have brought you to jail. And when you come out, remember never to fear, never to hesitate. Remember that it is I who am doing this, not you or any other. Therefore, whatever clouds may come, whatever dangers and sufferings, whatever difficulties, whatever impossibilities, there is nothing impossible, nothing difficult. I am in the nation and its uprising. I am Vasudeva, I am Narayana, and what I will shall be, not what others will. What I choose to bring about, no human power can stay. So, actually, we weaken ourselves in trying to defend ourselves, isn't it? How is that? Because when we defend ourselves, that self-defense brings agitation, anger, blame, and it takes away the only protection we ever have. We've said this, no? The only protection you ever have is consciousness. If your consciousness is in the right place, no matter how difficult the situation, the universe corrects itself if you correct yourself inside. But if you try to defend yourself by getting angry, agitated, whatever, you are rattling inside, and your outer universe, which is a mirror of you, will rattle in proportion to how much you're rattling inside. So the best protection you can have is faith, peace, leaving it to God. I mean, look at Sri Aurobindo as the role model. No, none of us faced the kind of danger he did when he stood in court, a British judiciary waiting to do away with him after all the horrible conditions he'd put in. But look at our Gurudev. He was a Himalaya of peace. He had complete faith that nothing would happen to him because his inner vision had opened up. He saw everything was Krishna, and Krishna would control everything. Also, one very beautiful detail in his case is the final judge who pronounced him innocent. He was a British judge, but he was with Sri Aurobindo in Cambridge when he was studying there. So look at the divine planning years before it was planned that this person would know Sri Aurobindo. Otherwise impossible for a British judiciary to pronounce him innocent and set him free when the British called Sri Aurobindo the most dangerous man to walk the Indian soil. But all this was planned. If we are taken to it, we'll always be taken through it. Everything is so beautifully planned. Only thing is, we must not get overwhelmed by the appearance of life in the moment. Despite its appearance, we need to be able to keep calm, have faith, and just go through it all. So now, coming back to why we hurt people, one reason we hurt people is in self-defense, yeah? But that's not the only reason we hurt. Now, Sri Aurobindo describes it beautifully in Savitri. A dark concealed hostility is lodged in the human depths, in the hidden heart of time. So there is, just the way there's a light inside us, there is a particular darkness which is just hostile to creation. You know what I mean? It's a very subtle voice of darkness which forms a kind of ill will, a kind of negation, a negation of light, my own light, the light of others. So a dark concealed hostility is lodged in the human depths, in the hidden heart of time, that claims the right to change and mar God's work. A secret enmity ambushes the world's march. It leaves a mark on thought and speech and act. It stamps stain and defect on all things done. So this voice in us, everything that's done, it stamps stain and defect. It wants to find fault rather than appreciate and praise. Can you identify this voice which exists in a lesser or greater degree in all of us? This voice which comes up, which wants to find fault, which wants to say, no, this is not possible if something bright happens, that negates us, that negates things around. So Sri Aurobindo is talking about that voice. It leaves a mark on thought and speech and act. It stamps stain and defect on all things done. Till it is slain, peace is forbidden on earth. There is no visible foe, but the unseen is around us. There is no visible enemy, but the unseen enemy is around us and inside us. Forces intangible besiege. Touches from alien realms, thoughts not our own, overtake us and compel the erring heart. Our lives are caught in an ambiguous net. An adversary force was born of old, an enemy force was born of old, invader of the life of mortal man. It hides from him the straight and immortal path. So this enemy within us, it's like it's an enemy of our own light. It hides from us the straight and immortal path. I remember when, I don't know if this has been your experience, but I remember when I first used to read Mother and Sri Aurobindo, when I just found them, one part of me was so hungry to read them because it was quenching like an age-old hunger. But another part of my mind would keep saying, chal bas, put it away, put it away, put it away. It was like these two voices, and I couldn't understand why this agitation in one part of my mind to put it away. When I read this passage, I realized it was that adversary voice which doesn't want us to do the thing which moves us towards our own light, which keeps telling us, don't do this, enough now, do something else.
How one can understand that? Like,
Huh?
How one can understand that?
What does that mean?
So when you said that one part is stopping when one part wanted to, but then how we understand that inner voice is saying not to do and do, like move together?
You can feel both, no? And then again, it's a question of the wolf you feed is the wolf that grows. So our battle is to ignore that voice, and even if it's pulling us back, keep going ahead and doing what we need to do. Same applies. You're meditating, after 10 minutes, that voice will say, now bas, now just relax. You're doing anything good, there'll be that voice which will keep pulling you away. So that is the adversary he's talking about. An adversary force was born of old, invader of the life of mortal man. It hides from him the straight immortal path. A power came in to veil the eternal light, a power opposed to the eternal will, diverts the messages of the infallible word, contorts the contours of the cosmic plan. A whisper lures to evil the human heart. It's like a whisper, but it will take you away from your light. It seals up wisdom's eyes, the soul's regard. It is the origin of our suffering here. It binds earth to calamity and pain. This all must conquer who would bring down God's peace. This hidden foe lodged in the human breast, man must overcome or miss his higher fate. This is the inner war without escape. Yeah, so this hidden foe lodged in the human breast, when we see it, it's our battle not to really listen to it, not to be possessed by it, and to turn towards our light again. This hidden foe lodged in the human breast, man must overcome or miss his higher fate. This is the inner war without escape.
Unless and until you didn't experience it through words, and I didn't realize it. But just now my man, since I know 15-20 minutes, my man voice is telling me go to sleep. But again I'm getting pulled up by what you're talking. So
Yes.
it's like going
Yes.
to sleep.
Yes.
And now what you said is explaining, so I try and
Yes, yes. All can be done by the divine, the heart and nature purified, the inner consciousness awakened, the veils removed. If one gives oneself to the divine with trust and confidence, and even if one cannot do so fully at once, yet the more one does so, the more the inner help and guidance comes, and the contact and experience of the divine grows within. If the questioning mind becomes less active and humility and the will to surrender grow in you, this ought to be perfectly possible. No other strength and tapasya then needed but this alone. Now a question: how to get forgiveness from a person I hurt? It's a question we've all had, right? We've all hurt people, regretted it. So somebody asked Alok Dutt this question, and he's given a beautiful answer which I'm going to read out. Somebody asked him, how do I ask forgiveness from a person who I have hurt? Alok Dutt says, forgiveness from the person is really not necessary as long as one seeks it from the divine. Forgiveness from the person serves the purpose of satisfying oneself and also cutting off the bad will that may have been generated in the person due to our thoughts and deeds. Yes, so it will serve this much. If I hurt Isha and I ask her forgiveness, at least the flow of energy between us will come back to balance. That purpose is served. But the real harm we do through our bad will is towards the divine work that is going on in everyone. This is important. If I hurt Isha, there's divine work going on within her. She will doubt humanity, she will doubt the divine, because when anyone's hurt, that hurt puts a veil between their light and them, right? So I'm hampering mother's work in Isha and I'm hampering mother's work in myself, right? Because when I am violent or I'm violating her, I'm moving away from my own light, right? I cannot be connected to my light and still hurt her. It's not possible. So, but the real harm we do through our bad will is towards the divine work that is going on in everyone. We contradict the divine will when we think ill of someone, because the divine is laboring ceaselessly to bring peace, harmony, love and beauty in this world. Besides, by harboring hate and jealousies, we repel the divine presence in us and put an extra thick veil which sometimes needs a great blow to be removed. So this is very important. We have to first apologize to Mother when we hurt anyone, because we are undoing her work in us and in that person. What would help us and help the person as well as the divine work is not forgiveness, which is often just a word with little truth in it, but to do these four things. 1. Recognize our error in harboring, nurturing and throwing ill will on others. So firstly, whenever, suppose I hurt Isha hypothetically, my mind will first says, she did this, I have to do it, I have to put her in a place, whatever. But first I sit with myself and I really look, whatever Isha did, anger, however right it seems, is always wrong. It's wrong for me, it's wrong for the divine work Mother's doing in me. So what is it that made me react to Isha? So it's very beautiful to really replay the whole interaction with Isha in slow motion, and you'll see that it's the same cycle. Suppose Isha is a regular trigger in my life, my husband's a regular trigger, my child, this one person is a regular trigger in my life. I will go through the same emotional cycle many times till I burst. So replay that cycle in slow motion and go to that point where you lose it. Catch that point. What was that one point that made me feel so violated and threatened that I lost it? Catch it. What was it? Was it that Isha made me feel inadequate, written off, criticized, violated, betrayed? Whatever it was, catch that feeling that you had which made you go out of control, and then hold up that feeling to light, offer it to the Mother, because at the end of the day, just know that however true that feeling seems to you, a large part of it is coming from your past conditioning. It doesn't have to do with reality in the moment. Do you understand what I'm saying? You may be sure that Isha is doing this to make me feel inadequate and small, but my smallness is really coming from my past conditioning. It might have just 10%, if at all, to do with what Isha did to me. So catch that past conditioning, offer it to Mother and put a will. Replay the whole event and say, if Mother gave me a second chance and Isha is doing the same thing with me, what would be another response that could come from within me? Be quiet, see what your inner wisdom gives you as that response, and put a will that next time you're going down the same emotional roller coaster, a new response comes from you. Otherwise, it's the same karmic pattern again and again, and there's no growth, there's no transformation. And be assured that till you conquer this blueprint in you, life will keep sending you the same trigger again and again and again, because it wants you to change it. So do that. So recognize our error in harboring, nurturing and throwing ill will on others, never to justify it under any pretext. No one else but we are responsible for what we do and how we react. See things as they are, not as the trickster mind and emotions make them seem. Look for the inner causes within us, which is generally rooted in the ego, selfishness and pettiness of nature, combined with a lack of generosity and kindness. Offer this part of one's nature and aspire persistently for it to change. Yeah? So whenever I've lost it, what are the 3 steps? Replay it in your mind. Go to that, slow it down, slow motion, go to that point where you lost it and catch the emotion in it. And recognize your past conditioning that has created the emotion. So at least you stop blaming the person. You know it's your past conditioning that took you through the loop. And then offer that conditioning to mother. Replay the event, seeing yourself responding in a different way. And put a will that next time, that's the kind of response that comes out of you.
I have a question.
Yes?
If your interventions are actually correcting the behavior, so you getting angry and lashing out at a repeated pattern is likely to stop them from doing that, doesn't that have a positive?
So Avantika, does it really stop them is my question. Does it? Has it in your life?
Or maybe it signals that this is not a good behavior.
But do they repeat it after a few days?
Yeah.
Exactly. That's my point. Nobody changes because you try to correct them, or very little. But consciousness is contagious. If you confront them in the right consciousness, somewhere in a very subtle way, that consciousness can change them. For example, thought is a very beautiful tool of manifestation. So if you replayed the whole event, seeing yourself responding differently and obviously seeing them responding differently, that will help to change them far more than your words. Your words have very little power to change anyone. Understand that. They'll change when their season comes to change, or in proportion to how your consciousness actually changes. But telling people, nobody is listening to you. They are following their own prakriti. As a preventive for future, one should practice the Buddhist metta and Raj Yogic way of substituting wrong responses with right ones. For example, replace conscious feelings of hate and love with love, jealousy with generosity, anger with kindness. That we've done ad nauseum in previous classes. This becomes easier if we understand that everyone has their difficulties, which are part of human nature and its present stage of imperfection. And yet everyone has the divine presence within them, and some divine quality that should be our main point of contact while ignoring the others. Okay, this was on hurting others, part 2 on being hurt by others. That's our topic for today, right? On hurting others and being hurt by others. So again, the greatest shield against being hurt is mother's assurance, I am with you. So these are mother's words, I am with you. Mother gives always to each one the love he needs. I am always seated in your heart, consciously living in you. Open your heart and you will find me already there. Don't be restless. Remain quietly concentrated in your heart and you will find me there, Mother says. Go deep inside the temple and you will find me there. All souls who aspire are always under my direct care. Mother is with all those who are sincere in their aspiration towards a divine life. I am always present near you, in you, and my blessings come with me. Be sure that I am always present among you to guide and help you in your work and your sadhana. For the moment, the important thing is to cultivate this widening and deepening of consciousness, which enables you to feel my constant presence with you, to feel it in a real and concrete way, which will bring you an immutable peace. Keep always this awareness of my constant loving presence and all will be all right. So the moment you are hurt, the first thing to do is to try and feel the mother's presence inside you. That's the greatest solvent for hurt. Just stay 5 minutes connected to her. her light acts the best on the vital. The vital sometimes emotions won't listen to reason, won't listen to thought. But the vital is like a child. A child loves the mother. It's the only thing, a child throwing a tantrum, the only one who can placate that child is its mother, right? So the only one that can really cajole and transform the vital when it's on a rampage is the mother's presence. So go in and feel her and leave it to her. That's the first thing. Secondly, these beautiful aphorisms of Sri Aurobindo. Forgiveness is praised by the Christian and the Vaishnav. But for me, I ask, what have I to forgive and whom? God struck me with a human hand. Shall I say then, I pardon thee thy insolence, O God? Because Sri Aurobindo says that any emotion you ever feel, you're feeling it towards God, because everyone is God. So if a human being hurts you, strikes you with a human hand or a hand of words, where's the question of forgiveness? If you really remember, it's all God. He's saying it tongue in cheek. God struck me with a human hand. Shall I say then, I pardon thee thy insolence, O God? God gave me good in a blow. Shall I say, I forgive thee, Almighty One, the harm and the cruelty, but do it not again. Yeah? Shall I say that? He's saying it again tongue in cheek. When I pine at misfortune and call it evil, or am jealous and disappointed, then I know there is awake in me again the eternal fool. The eternal fool who has forgotten that everything is God. When I pine at misfortune and call it evil, or am jealous and disappointed, then I know that there is awake in me again the eternal fool. So with that we stop, and let's just do a little meditation on this. So just sit tall, rising spine, open heart. Place your hand at the center of your chest, right hand first, left palm over it. And just go into the center of your chest towards the mother's presence in your heart, however you feel it. As a feel, as a vibration, as a smile, as an image, as a deep peace. Just go deeper and deeper into your heart till you feel her presence. Whenever you do, relax your hands and continue to feel it. Now, think of a person you have hurt. See that person across you, and that same mother's presence in that person's heart also. Sri Aurobindo's words. Every emotion you ever feel, you're feeling it towards Mother, towards God, because everyone is the Mother, is God. So just soften, focus on the Mother's presence in that person, and ask forgiveness from the Mother in that person and the Mother in you. because whenever you hurt someone, you're undoing mother's work in that person and in you. Even if you've hurt that person with your thoughts, just see mother's presence in that person in you and ask forgiveness from the mother in you and in that person. Keep doing this till you feel a sense of lightness. Know that this is not imagination. If you are open to her, the mother is working in you to release the stain in your consciousness caused by that action you did. Now bring to your mind the person you have been hurt by, or you feel repelled by, somebody you don't want to be around. And again, feel the mother's presence in you. Feel the mother's presence in that person also, in that person's heart. And remember Sri Aurobindo's words, God struck me with a human hand. Shall I say to him, I forgive thee thy insolence, O God? The mother's presence in that person will allow the person to be only so terrible as is good for my growth. Sri Krishna's words, I am in all creatures and I control and overrule all their actions. So let me not feel overwhelmed or threatened. What will happen to me if this person continues to be like that? I control and overrule all actions of all beings. So just letting go of the fear and the threat and feeling the smile and confidence in your heart as you feel her presence in your heart and smiling in the heart of the person. She is there. She is going to control everything. I just have to trust and wait. And remembering Mother's words, if you approach the vilest human being from the highest in you, the highest in that being is obliged to come forward. And that's what will make the vilest person change, when the highest in that person comes forward, because you are approaching that person from the highest in you. And then fold your hands together in a namaste. Let's end with 3 Oms. Om.